So he is the sales head and business development for India PAC Flagfood India Private Limited. So Mr. Sandeep Person has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering field and has graduated from MS Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore. He has over 13 plus years of experience in the field of sales and marketing of HVAC solutions like chillers and precision air conditioning units for critical and data center applications. So he has worked in companies like Johnson Controls, Carrier, Vertiv, and now is currently associated with Flag Group. So he has certifications from Certified Data Center Professional, that is CDCP, Indian Green Building Council accredited to the professional, that is IGBC, then Green Eco Friendly Movement Certified Professional, then is a member of ISRE Bangalore chapter, then member of Rotary International. So he has presented various technical sessions on topics such as precision cooling, data center cooling for ISRE's chapters across India, C2 and other industrial conferences, and have also authorized articles on cooling the data center space with CRAC and CRAH units for ISRE and thermal business control update. TBTU, so HVAC magazines recently. So we welcome, on behalf of ISRE Bangalore chapter, we all welcome Mr. Sandeep Person. Thank you for accepting our invitation and agreeing to conduct this program. So over to you, Mr. Sandeep Person. Before that, Mr. Girish, if you could just play the ISRE membership video before you could start the presentation. Yeah. Thank you, Girish. And for the members who have logged in today, please, if you are not yet been the member for the History Bangalore chapter, you have gone through the benefits of becoming a member. Request you all to please enroll for the History membership, as there are various benefits. And from History Bangalore chapter, we shall be conducting a lot of technical seminars, product presentation, and other lot of technical and non-technical events which will be beneficial for us both professionally and personally. So over to you, Ms. Sandeep Person. We are all eager to go through your presentation. We know because you are definitely a wonderful speaker, and we know we'll benefit a lot out of this. Over to you, Ms. Sandeep.
So firstly, good evening everyone, and a big thanks to ISRE Bangalore chapter, Ajay sir, Ashok, and Vinod sir. I think a great opportunity to connect. I could see close to 60 participants. I think cheers and I think I should appreciate all of you. Being a weekend, I think you have spent your time in terms of listening on the cooling and data center. A big kudos for all of you. Hope all of you are doing safe and sound in this current situation. Please follow all the safety measures, and we are all eager to meet you. And I think physical presentation I would have loved to have to meet you and see you all of. I think I'm sure we are going to have that. So with that note, let us start. I'll share my screen. Hope my audio and the PPT is visible. Girish or Ashok, if you can give me a heads up.
Yeah, Mr. Sandeep. Yeah, Mr. Sandeep. It's visible.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Perfect,
Please
perfect.
And for the members, whoever have any doubts and queries during the presentation, there is a chat box where you can type in your questions. After the program, Mr. Sandeep would be answering to all that.
Yes. Thanks, Ashok, for that. Yeah, please, as I go through the slide, please drop in all your questions in the chat box. We'll try to answer all the questions there. And all the members, any non-members, please do ping ISRE Bangalore 121 and with your contact number, and please do enroll on ISRE. So on that note, the topic for today is critical cooling solution for a small server room to a hyperscale data center. I am Sandeep Vasant. Apart from being a mechanical engineering, I have also carry CDCP, IGBC, and GEMCP, as Ashok sir rightly said. I'm the sales head and business development for Flat Group. My contact details and mail IDs are also there. You can make a note of it. Before I start the presentation, I think very important that each one of us who is part of the call to take the pledge of sustainability. So what is sustainability? We keep hearing about sustainability. Sustainability means meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. That means it is basically a very simple action plan. I think we have been hearing it in our school, in our college days. Plant more trees, reuse, reduce, recycle, rainwater harvesting, net zero water, carbon usage effectiveness, and zero wastage. So very simple but effective tool, not only limited to office, IT, hotel, but also at our home, at our office, at our factory we work. I think just one more update about 4-5 days back. I think it's a proud moment for all of us at Bangalore. The hotel of ITC Windsor Manor in Bangalore is certified as the zero carbon certification. It's a proud moment. It's the first in the world. Also, a small juice shop in Malaysia, it's gone viral for zero waste. So something very encouraging. When these guys can do it, why not I? Why not you? Every one of us can do. So let's take the pledge of sustainability. I quote and unquote here by Mahatma Gandhi ji, the earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not any man's greed. So with that note, let's get into our agenda. The agenda for today is introduction to data center, power usage effectiveness, PUV, we'll look at that, data center cooling standards and codes, cooling design parameter, selection of the cooling units, airflow methodology, let's look at that. What are the different and what are the parameters to select a cooling unit? Cold aisle, hot aisle, containment, let's look at that. As we keep hearing on the containment, let's look at that. Different types of cooling units, which goes into a small server room, and the data center chiller selection criteria. What are the key criteria which goes into selecting a chiller for a data center? Types of cooling units in a large hyperscale data center, and other types of cooling units. And we end it with a conclusion and a summary. So with that note, introduction to a data center. On your left hand side, you can find a hard disk space, which is actually the first data storage device, a very small device in terms of just 5 MB. But if you see at the area which is taken, close to 1 square meter. So the concept of data storage started in the late 1950s. Today, as we talk, the WhatsApp forwards, what we have is a 5 MB. The photo what we take in our mobile is 8 MB. Few years behind, it was a large space. On the right hand side, a huge ton of paper, the amount of data stored, rather the amount of paper wasted to store a data goes into a CD of just 700 MB in a CD drive, which happened. We saw it in the late 1990s. So that's how the concept of data center or data storage started. The evolution of data storage is from a large chip to a floppy disk. Today, we don't see this anymore. Then the CD, most of our laptop doesn't have a CD. Then we come into the USB where the data is stored. And now as we talk, it goes into a cloud or a colocation. So kind of just to give you a quick background of what is data center, data storage. So today is the age of the big data. 2013, the figures were 4.7 zettabyte. Today, as we talk, the last year math showed close to 44 zettabyte. 1 zettabyte is equal to 1 trillion gigabyte. Again, the survey done by last year showed us more connected devices than people. Close to 50 billion connected devices than the people. So that is like the figures are quite enormous in terms of the data storage. Coming to India with Make in India and the Aadhaar card, all of us have the Aadhaar card, the unique identification card, Make in India concept. All this data is stored in a data center. Again, the data center, Indian data center boom started in the late 90s, 2000 with social media, emails, gaming. With the COVID, everything is gone online, like webinars like this, or like a doctor consultation, virtual runs, everything is happening on a virtual platform. Again, quick number from India, if you see average, all of us spend close to 2 to 4 hours on social media. To check on that, you can go to your app and check on an app called Digital Wellbeing. You can get those number. Again, to stay connected, yesterday we had the IPL started. Any of us want to see the match again, go to Google, type in within milliseconds, you can watch the replay of the match. So that's where the data center comes into picture. So introduction to data center. A data center is a building or a dedicated space which would have rack, servers, and that would store the information and process it to our mobile or app within milliseconds. The data centers are co-divided into telecom edge facility up to 100 kilowatt, which is the power to the data center, server rooms 100 to 500. As we go to a medium data and large data center, it is up to 500 kilowatt to a 1 megawatt. And as we talk, the hyperscales are above 1 megawatt. So I'm sure all of us are in this social media platforms. With a click of a button, your data, your process, your videos, emails, all goes in immediately within seconds. That's where the data storage goes into a data center. And thanks to the internet, you get the data out of the service within milliseconds. A minute on the internet, again going back 2020, a minute on the internet are 500 hours of video being uploaded on the YouTube. We have meetings like this going on Zoom platform, meetings on Team, messages being shared on WhatsApp. So a tremendous number of data are shared within a minute if you look at last year and even as we speak in 2021. So these data centers, that was the previous slide talked to you about what is data center, how the data center concept started. These data centers are divided into 4. That is, we call it as a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 data center. Basically, we don't want these data center to shut down. We want it to be running. It should be up and running 24/7. So basis on the uptime of these data center, it is categorized into 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 1 category is the minimum with no redundancy with an uptime of 99.67%, downtime of 28 hours. If you look at the tier 4, the downtime is just 26.3 minutes and you have a 2+1 redundant. Tier 2 would have a partial redundancy of power and cooling. So most of the data center falls into this category of 2 tier 3 design because the tier 4 would obviously incur a higher capital cost vis-a-vis building a 2 number of tier 3. So the next important point apart from the tier, so tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, we looked at the redundancy in power and cooling. As we get into the next slide, PUV, we keep hearing of PUV in a data center, power usage effectiveness. What is PUV? PUV is the total facility power divided by the IT equipment power. So what is facility power? Facility power is the power consumed in the facility. That is in means of cooling, air movement, or UPS or lighting divided by the IT. What are the ITs? The power drawn by the server, the PDUs. So giving you a quick math, basically any of the PUVs would be averaging from 3 to 2.51. We will look at those numbers in the coming slide. But the astonishing numbers is in a PUV, the cooling per se takes away close to 30%. So the presentation is revolving around cooling. So if you see in the PUV of the data center, the cooling per se is 30%, which is a bigger chunk of it. As we get into the next slide, as I said, the PUV numbers are 3 to 1.2, 3 being very inefficient data center and 1.2 or below being a very efficient data center. So let's look at the worldwide numbers. 2006, 2007, when the data center concept started, we were looking at 3, 2.5 with energy efficiency and free coolings and different energy consumption and variation in innovation. The PUV dropped. Today, as we talk, the last year figures of Jan to December showed a PUV of average around 1.59. Again, it depends upon the various factors of location, the type of cooling, the type of rack, the type of data center, but average it is 1.69, 1.59. Again, if you divide this PUV into different location or area, again, the average, as I said, is 1.59, and you could find different location, what are the average PUV. Few of the countries, you have the benefit of lower ambient, thereby your PUV also drops. So why are we talking PUV? The very important factor is that the data center, with the amount of social media, with the amount of digitization, the data centers are, and by 2030, the survey says the data center alone would consume 10 to 20% of the world electricity, which, so that the PUV comes into picture, we will have to keep a watch on the PUV. And by 2040 plus, the CO2 emission of the data center would be close to an aviation industry. Again, that's why the PUVs are very important here. Couple of articles I picked up with the COVID and the pandemic, all were online, digitization, thereby the boom on the data center. We saw it last year as we talked. Even this year, there is a boom on the data center within India. So coming back to the cooling, in the PUV, what we noticed is 30% of the cooling goes into the PUV. These are the standard codes which I picked up by reading various articles on data center. I've just summarized these for you. You can take a quick snapshot of this, all related to data center cooling. First one, ASHRAE 2011, 2015, the technical committee, we will talk about that in the coming slide. Then the design input of AHRI and the ECBC norms on the chiller and the PAC, and the tire design and the R1, R2, R3, R4 as per ANSI PIA 942, indoor air quality as per ASHRAE norms, and the ISO standards of the air requirement within the data center, and with the ISHRAE guidelines as well, which you will have to keep a check on because of the current pandemic issue. And we have a couple of green rating programs from IGBC, which talks about going green within the data center. So these are the cooling standards from the ASHRAE norms and other various societies article, which I have kind of compiled it for the benefit of all of us. So let's get into the next slide. What happens if the temperature and humidity are not precisely designed? Very high temperature, yes, can hamper the server. Thereby there can be a loss of the data. I think you would have seen the video or article, the data center which caught fire in France. Of course, it was due to a fire, but very high temperature can hamper the server rooms and data center. We don't want very low temperature. Why? Because cooling units have to work more, thereby your power consumption would also increase, thereby your operational cost would also increase. Very high humidity, we don't want that to happen. Condensation can happen at the server level. Low humidity can generate a static which can effectively affect the server, thereby occurring a failure. So a precise kind of a control and a bracket of temperature and humidity is what we will have to maintain. What are these temperature? We will look at it in the coming slides as I talk. So referring back to the PUV, the cooling I said 30%. If you break that down into 30% of the cooling, what it sees is the temperature within the data center accounts to. So the nature of the data center is worried on the temperature, which accounts to 55%. Balance is the humidity, RH within the data center, vibration accounting to 20%, and dust 66%, because of the fact these are all closed loop, no fresh air is entering the data center, it's all closed loop, so not much of worry on the dust. The major worry happens to be on the temperature and also on the humidity. On the next slide, if you look at it, these data centers are built in or kept within a building. You find a lot of data center with a wall, not much in glazing, because of the fact the heat gain happening through a glass can greatly increase the heat load within the data center. But of course, if you have a high performance glass, with low U value and low shading coefficient and a high visual light transmission, of course, the heat load generated within the data center would be less. So this is the 3 points what you will have to keep a check on that while you have a data center with glazing. Again, if you look at the cooling per se within the, if you look at a comfort AC, which consumes a larger amount of the power within the data center, close to 57 in any comfort building or any data center, major chunk of the air conditioning, the power drawn by the air conditioning is 57%. So the major point here is that cooling being 30% within the PUV and other points like the glazing, the heat gain, we will have to precisely or rightly design the cooling units and the heat load within the server room of the data center. Again, a quick number check on the market size. This is thanks to a market survey from Technovio as the COVID started. These are the numbers. So as the data center incrementally increases, thereby your cooling can be chillers, air conditioning, CCUs, precision AC keeps on increasing. So we look at a CAR, compound annual growth of close to 20.25% as the data center increases, which is a good number in terms of the cooling requirement in the DC space. So now coming kind of niching down to the cooling drivers. So what are the parameters that we will have to keep in mind while we design the right cooling unit in a server room or a hyperscale? Point number one, very important, CapEx and the OpEx, you'll have to look at that. Ensuring uptime, we saw it in the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, ensuring uptime, no downtime of the cooling unit. Increased heat density, very important. Per rack, 5 years, 10 years back, 2 kilowatt per 5 kilowatt. Today, as we talk, 10, 15, 20 kilowatt per rack. Acceptance of higher temperature. We will look at the temperature in the next slide, but accepting very high temperature. Even today, most of the smaller server rooms says that if I am feeling cold, then I assume the servers are feeling cold. But the concept is not that I should feel cold. The maintaining the right temperature as per ASHRAE norms is very important for the server or rack. Optimize the cooling design and regulation, and keeping a check on the building regulations of National Building Code, and be open for innovation. Let's not get the traditional way of cooling. Let's look at innovation. What are the new, so that you can bring down your operational cost. Again, further breaking it down, important design checklist on the data center cooling points is, we talked about the tier design. So 1 to 4, n+1, 2, n+1. Inbuilt redundancy, that's again correlated to the tier design. We will also look at the saving which is generated having an inbuilt redundancy in my coming slide. Heat load of the room, very important to understand what is the heat load from the room. Heat load per rack, what is the heat load per rack which is generated. Placement of rack, we don't want the unit to be placed at an opposite side and the rack is at an opposite side and there is no airflow, no required airflow not reaching to the rack. We don't want that to happen. So placement of rack is very important. Cold and hot aisle containment, I have a slide and video on this in the next slide. Airflow methodology, we will look at the airflow methodology. What are the different types of airflow methodology within a cooling system? Improving the air and water efficiency. Very important to look at what are the temperature, right temperature and right chilled water temperature to be maintained within a data center. And we will also look at the different types of precision AC unit. Integrating all of this through a DCIM, data center infrastructure management, so that it becomes like a brain of the equipment to monitor and control and sequence all of these critical parameters. Why I say that is that the report says the cause of a downtime in a data center is, unfortunately, apart from the hardware and system failure, is also due to the human failure. And human failure, again, the next report says that the human failure within the cooling unit, power, of course, 37%, but cooling, wrong cooling unit accounts with 13%, so which is again a worrying factor. So by choosing, I have a slide on every of this highlighted points. By integrating an artificially, with having an artificial intelligence to monitor all of this parameter is very important to have, and also designing the right cooling unit would actually reduce the percentage in the cooling in the coming years. So to boil it down, one is the heat load of the room, where we understand what is the number of lighting, heat load, and what is the area of the room. And very important to note, in any server room or data center, let's say a 50 TR or a 60 TR is a heat generated in an office space of 300 square feet, but the equal amount of heat is generated from a smaller room in a data center. Why I say that? If you look at the numbers in the right, the average server room or the server rack per rack kilowatt is close to 5 to 9 kilowatt per rack into the number of racks. Then the balance 16%, if you also look at it, is close to more than 50 kilowatt per rack, somewhere around 30 to 39. So this is a breakup of the heat load generated per rack, can go from a minimum 5 up to a 50 kilowatt per rack. So it becomes very critical that you have a right cooling unit designed, of course, the heat load designed for the room, also checking on the kilowatt per rack, what is the heat load or kilowatt per rack into the number of rack, combining both of that to give you the answer of the cooling capacity required. These cooling units which goes into the server room are having ISHR. What is SHR? Which is sensible heat ratio, which is sensible cooling divided by the total cooling. Total cooling would be sensible plus latent, close to 0.9 to 0.99, whereas any of the comfort AC would fall under the bracket of 0.6 to 0.7 because they cater to more of the latent load in a comfort application. The next important point, we have been checking on what is the downtime, 13%, 30% on the PUV, 13% cooling loss in the report which said of the downtime. So the temperature and humidity, thanks to the ASHRAE 2011, 2015, the recommended temperature is 18 to 27. So what is 18 to 27? It is the supply air temperature to the rack. To these rack, the supply air temperature to be maintained between 18 to 27. And of course, the precision AC also comes with the benefit of higher CFM per ton, close to 550, 600, 650 per ton, which ensures a zero hotspots and improves the overall air distribution within the server room. So let's talk more about this on the cooling unit. Referring to the ASHRAE 2011-2015, the recommended temperature at the supply level is 18 to 27. In fact, few years back, as I said, even today, few of the small server rooms say that I should feel cold at 12:15. Then I say that the data center server room is perfect, but it is not so. We will have to refer to ASHRAE 2011-15, which clearly defines the temperature. Even though if you maintain 27, it is still okay. And today we are happy to see that most of the IT space customers are sharing the server, whether it is falling under the A1, A2, A3, or A4. Thereby, then we understand what is the temperature to be maintained. So that is like a combination of the IT and the facility team going hand in hand, which becomes very important and crucial to design the right cooling unit. So the temperatures within the server room to the rack level is 18 to 27. Again, thanks to the ASHRAE guidelines, which was released last year to impact the COVID virus, the temperature, what is said is to be 24 to 30, which is under the bracket of the ASHRAE norms and the humidity as well. So with the ASHRAE and ASHRAE norms, the data center would actually kind of impact the virus as well as we talk in the current situation. To give you a case study, so what happens? Okay, let's say the temperature is maintained from 18 to 27 on the rack level. So what is the impact on the cooling unit? Most of the time it is that the unit, the CCU unit are designed at the return air temperature. So as I said, I would say that okay, the server room has to be maintained at 27, then the return air given to the PAC is also taken at 25-degree. Thereby, the supply, keeping a delta T of 10, 11, the supply from the CCU is 14. But as per ASHRAE norms, the supply is 18 to 27. So this is actually not required. This is kind of what you say, it is overcooling or the temperatures are very low. If you look at this case A, the supply air temperature is taken at 18, which is again low. We could go up to 27, and the delta T of 10, 11, return air being 30, the impact, what happens is there is a drop in the power consumption of the compressor as against the case B. There is an incremental increase on the cooling capacity, sensible capacity, and the return air is kept at 30. Balance all parameters are kept constant in terms of the ambient and the ESP. This is a case study of a 130 kilowatt. So just imagine the kind of saving you get when you consider the ASHRAE norms while you design your server rooms, while you design a cooling units for your server room. As we get into the next slide, this is the crack unit. These are the racks. The servers are placed horizontally. Again, very important to understand what type of server, whether the servers are taking the cold air from the bottom or vertical. Very important to check that the servers are placed horizontally. Thereby, the cold air goes front of it and the hot air goes on the behind. In the sense, you have a hot air and a cold air containment. Very important to have a check on what type of server, where are the fans loaded. And here you could see a bottom throw, the blue color denominates the cold air and the red color is the hot air. A quick case study here from an extreme return air, as I talked about in the previous slide, return air of 20 to a return air of 35. As I said, higher the delta T, better it is in terms of there is an increase in the cooling capacity, there is a decrease in the power consumption from these units. So thereby what happens when you calculate the COP? What is COP? Coefficient of performance. 3.516 divided by the kW by ton. If you see the serial number 1 would give you a COP of 3 vis-a-vis the serial number 4, which would give you just 1.4. That means to say an improvement of 50% over the COP. Very important to note. Again, referring back to the ASHRAE, I have just taken close to, here it is 18, it is just 19, but you can technically still go higher than that. ASHRAE says 18 to 27. So technically you can actually increase it and maintaining a delta T of 15. So that's on the ASHRAE norms. We talked about tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, where we spoke on N plus 1, 2, N plus 1. So not just for tire design or R design, but also quoting you an example or saving, considering running a redundancy is, let's see a case study of 4 units where each of these capacities are 92 kilowatt of cooling capacity. This is as a standby, 3 are working. So when you calculate 3 into 92, the total capacity is 276. Vis-a-vis the power consumption by each of this unit running at 100% is 32.7. Just a case study and a sample example. Into 3 gives you a COP of 2.81. Now, the standby should not barely be for a standby. It is recommended to use the standby during the operation. The best bet is to run these units, run all the 5 units at a bracket of 60 to 70, 75%, because the best energy efficiency from the DX unit is bought from the bracket of 60 to 75%. So if you run this at, let's say, 75%, at, let's say, the same unit, 75% gives you 69 kilowatt into 4, power consumption being dropped further to 19.5 into 4 you technically get the same cooling capacity, so not to worry on that. But the power consumption running part load at all of these 4 units, there is an increment on the COP. So technically running the fourth unit in this case, or the standby unit, if I have to say, makes more sense in terms of the higher COP or better operational cost. If you do a math further, the delta, that is 9.1 minus the 78, the kilowatt is close to 20, and the running hours, if you calculate 20 into 24 bar 7 into the rupees per kilowatt of 8, here it is taken in euro, you would recover the cost of the standby unit within a year and a half if you do this math by running the 4 units in a partial load of 75%. So as I was telling you in the last example, that by running any of the variable inverter CC units in the bracket of this blue color, 45 to 80%, you get an enormous saving. Here, if you see the serial number 2, at running at 59% gives you a saving of close to 38.5% benefit. So it's very much important that we look at hash rate. I spoke in the previous slide, and running redundancy also saves you the operational power. So touching on the dust-free environment, as I said, most of these cooling units are placed in a close control where pressure is not taken. Thereby, the filter which is going into the CC unit would be a MERV 8 as per ASHRAE 2011. If at all there is a fresh air or outside air entering the data center, the filter to be upgraded to a MERV 11 or 13. So this is on the check on the filter which goes into it. Now breaking it further into the different types of cooling methodology based on the cooling medium and the airflow pattern, we will look at that. Direct expansion, air cooled, water cooled, chilled water. The CCUs are also defined into dual fluid is one being direct expansion, refrigerant based, and a chilled water, or DX in a free cooling circuit, or combination of both of the chilled water. Based on the airflow pattern, bottom through, frontal through, inflow, variety of options are there on the CCU, the unit which goes into the server room. Now to have an image of all these units on the direct expansion, here you could see an indoor unit and an outdoor unit. Typical schematic like a comfort AC, but the added advantage here in any of the cracked units which goes into a server room, it would have a heating to artificially increase the sensible heat load within the room. It would have a humidifier adding the moisture within the room. It would also have a dehumidification cycle to bring down the RH. So these are the 4 cycle apart from the cooling. The advantage what you also get is the benefit of larger copper piping length, close to 100 RMT from indoor to outdoor. If you're worried about the noise, then you put the compressors in the outdoor unit. There is a slight decrement on the noise. In my previous slide, I talked to you about a free cooling and a chilled water. There, the chiller is connected to the unit like an AHU. You can imagine an AHU where the chiller is connected to the PAC, calling it is called a precision AHU unit. But the fact remains, you have an ISHR, ICFM, heater, heating, humidification, and a dehumidification cycle within these power units. So based on the cooling medium, then we look at the dual or the combi cool, where the same CCU units are connected to DX with the condenser or the chiller. The concept is in any server room data center, morning 9 to 5, 9 to 6, when the chiller is on, it goes into the chiller mode. Evening, when the ambients are low, then it goes in, when the chiller is shut down, it goes into the DX mode. And then you also have the benefit of the combination of chiller plus chiller can be working standby or 712 or 1520, but all these options, either one of the above can operate at a given time. So on the next slide is the free cooling. We saw on the traditional standard, the CCU units, which goes into the server room. Again, the concept of free cooling. What is free cooling? When again referring to the ASHRAE 1827, when the outside ambient is close to 27, why don't we get the outside ambient into the server room rather than running the CCU unit, which has chiller, which has compressor, fans, and a lot of mechanical component which draws a huge amount of power. So one way is direct passage of the outside air via the CCU unit, but you will have to keep a check on the what type of air or where the data center is placed, so that we don't want any kind of high contaminated air or high CO2 air to enter, and also have a check on the type of filter which goes into this CCU unit. The second concept is the free cooling unit, where we don't let the outside air, but we get the benefit of the lower ambient, where a separate circuit is placed within the CCU with a circulation of water and an ethylene glycol. As the temperature is low, it is only free cool, where there is the circuit of water and glycol circulates without the DX. As the temperature increases, ambient temperature, it goes into a mixed mode. What is mixed mode? It is a combination of this circuit with a small AC pump and partial of the DX, or it can also be a chilled water. And as the temperature further increases, then it goes only into a DX mode. In this, what is the benefit is that if you, as the ambient lowers and be within the bracket, it can be within a free cooling or it can be within the mixed mode. So thereby compared to a vis-a-vis to a normal crack unit or a CCU unit without the free cooling, you get a good saving in the operational time of the unit throughout the year. Again, it depends upon the location of the unit where it is placed, whether it is Bangalore or Delhi, where you have the advantage of lower ambient at few of the months. So from there, we look at the airflow. In my previous slide, I talked about the airflow. Variety of options on the crack units or the CC units. Some are used for industry, textile, lab, but here it is specifically for data center. So which is the right airflow? The red color is the hot air and the blue color is the cold air. So just spend a minute thinking which is the right. Is it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H? Which is the right option for a server room? In the ASHRAE norms case study, we found the racks are there are server, cold air being high in density will pick up the heat, and hot air being low in density would naturally go back to the unit. Thereby, the right option would be the first four, because all these are bottom throw. This is a frontal throw, so this is also okay to be used in a server room. So all the first four options are the right kind of the best practice in terms of the airflow for the CCU. Here you could see a quick video. This is the CCU. The cold air goes here and picks up the hot, and the red is the hot air, which goes back naturally to the unit. If you have a false ceiling, yes, you could have. And then if you have multiple units, it's recommended to have a plenum and a damper. We don't want the hot air going back to the standby unit. So a couple of videos and the design concept on the airflow. Apart from that, very important is that we cannot place the PAC in any direction and say that, yeah, the PAC is going to do the job and I have the best cooling in the world and it's going to do the right job for me. But the answer is very important that we place the CCU on the correct location. Number one, basis on the airflow from these units, look at the return air. We want the sufficient gap of return air. For example, for case number one, we would want a retainer of minimum 300 mm to the unit. Not only that, even the false floor height to be maintained at a specific minimum height. Otherwise, too high of a space would have an air loss issue. So a minimum recommended height is also given, and the service. All the service happens from the front of the unit, a sufficient space to be maintained basis on the CFM or the capacity of the unit. Also, a quick tip for all of you is that all these units have high, as I said, 500, 600, 650 CFM per ton. So it's recommended to place the rack at least 200 mm from the CCU units, and the CCU units will be placed perpendicular to the hot air so that you have a sufficient flow of the hot air and the sufficient flow of cold air to the rack and server. So from there, we look at the containment. So very important is that, yeah, we might have the best CCU, we have placed it well, but what happens in the data center is If we don't have a containment, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40 racks, when we place these racks, there can be a mixture of the cold air and the hot air. Thereby, the containment is very important. This is a video of a cold air containment. You reduce close to, you save close to 30 to 40% of the saving while you have a containment. Just a video of a cold aisle containment. All these are customized, built as per every site, every rack and server and the cooling unit. This can also be scalable considering the future expansion at the data center. So containment, as long as you do a containment, it is very good. There are two types of containment, cold aisle containment and hot aisle containment. Yes, in hot aisle containment, here the hot air is contained, in a cold aisle containment, the cold air is contained. And just to give you a quick kind of pros and cons on the hot aisle containment, you have this plenum, thereby your capital cost may increase. Again, the hot aisle is recommended where you have high return air temperature when you use different cooling units. And again, in a cold air containment, if you see, when you contain the cold air, the entire rack from the bottom to the top is maintained at a constant temperature. Nothing to give a comparison, but the fact of the matter remains, as long as you do a containment, it is an efficient and a best practice in terms of saving the operational cost and have a right energy efficient data center. So on the server room, we saw the crack units, DX units, smaller capacity, what goes into that. So here you go, any server room has a typical DX or could be sometimes even chilled water units, but traditionally we find the DX units which goes into a server room and can also be a wall mounted for where you have one rack, two rack kind of a solution. Quick check on the chiller. As we get into the hyperscale data center, chillers goes into a larger data center. Thanks to a couple of my friends from the industry, they've shared a good note on the chiller. If you look at this, number one is that you refer back to the ASHRAE 19.1 2015 to have a check on the best COP on the chiller. Any DC space where you have a chiller and a pump and a fan, the major chunk of the power consumption goes in from the chiller. So right design of the chiller is very important. Air cooled chiller, yes, today as I spoke in the pledge for sustainability, keep a check on the water. The limitation on an air cooled chiller is up to a limited capacity. You could have a adiabatic pad if at all there is a water available there. You could save close to 5-6%. And also look at hybrid module between air cooled and water cooled. Thereby you save operational cost. Couple of options of free cooling as we do have in the chillers. That's also very important while we design the chiller. Couple of very important key features when you select a chiller. VFD on the chiller because it's catering to a DC space. Inbuilt redundancy, we spoke on tire, and also the redundancy saving. So redundancy applicable very much for a chiller. Quick start, restart, very important. We don't want downtime there. We want the DCs to be up and running. Quick start, restart is something which is important, and options like the variable pumping system goes into the chiller as you select it, and a couple of other options like a chiller plant optimizer or a manager, and having a thermal storage tank could actually save on your OPEX saving. So referring back again and again on the ASHRAE norms, because we spoke on the air efficiency, now we talk on the water efficiency. Again, to remind you, 1827 ASHRAE norms, here I have taken a case study of PAHU units where it is connected to the chiller at a supply of maximum 27, your return air delta T 11, 12, 39, the chiller can actually be designed at a higher in and out because of the ASHRAE norms. So let's take a case study of a standard design at 7 and 12, base capacity, and as a baseline, as you increase the chilled water because of the ASHRAE norms to 2021, your percentage saving also increases. But a quick note or a check, if you find the power capacity actually technically drops, but nevertheless, if you have to meet the required cooling capacity of say 200, you go to the A or A+1 model, you still save close to 30 to 35% minusing the fan consumption of the power units. Next, so very important, air efficiency ASHRAE norms on the crack units, water efficiency on the chiller side, both going hand in hand with free cooling on the CCU, free cooling on the chiller would be the right design in terms of making your efficient, energy efficient solution in the DC space. Couple of other accessories where we saw the report, the pumps consume close to 14%. If the water flow rate can be reduced, pump energy would be saved, thereby the delta T, the chill water delta T, if you keep the basin of 5 and increase the delta T, again you save on the power consumption on the pumps. Of course, VPF system goes into any DC space in terms of saving on both capex and opex, not only DC space, any of the other requirement, but yeah, you get a good saving on that. And then you have other options of constant primary and variable secondary. But yeah, we see predominantly under the VPF system on the chiller. Now going to the hyperscale, we spoke on hyper server room. What are the cooling units which goes into hyperscale? Which goes into server room. The hyperscales are basically a large data center which stores, or it's a cloud computing which is scalable. We had close to, I think, close to 500 hyperscale, but with the current situation and digitization, the hyperscales are also increasing. I think you all read the news of large hyperscale which are investing in India. So what goes into the hyperscale? Of course, the crack units, chilled water connected can also be seen, which is called the power units along with the chiller. But the emerging trends in these large hyperscale, keeping a check on the PUV, COP is emerging trends of computer room air handling units called indirect evaporative cooling and fan wall units. So what are these units? Let's look at this. So this is a video as a talk of an indirect evaporative cooling where the capacity goes up to 200, 300, 500 kilowatt, which are placed above the data center or on the same floor. Where we spoke on free cooling, where the direct air is taken into the server room. Here it is an indirect air where the outside air is not taken inside the server room. So we don't have the outside contaminated air entering the data center. Here, as we see, higher the ambient, there is a cooling pad which sprays the water, and then you have the benefit of lower temperature entering. In this case, all the components are working. The compressor, the fan, the cooling pads are all operational. These can also be connected to a chiller. As the ambient drops, one of the components one by one would shut down, and then only the fan or the cooling pads would get operational as per the requirement of the DC space. So these units, as I said, you can see the airflow here. The air is not directly taken into the DC space. It's an indirect airflow where the blue color is the cold air which enters the data center down below. From there, we look at fan wall unit. This is another emerging trend. The fan wall units are coming from the background of the AHU where the units are placed on the slab. No false floor, no grills, no supply grills, direct airflow to the rack server, and with the hot air plenum, the hot air is taken back to the unit. This is how the fan wall units are placed, all connected to the chiller. You get a benefit of lower COP, thereby your PUV. As I said, it comes from the background of AHU. You can find the terminologies of stability and the casing leakage, L1, thermal performance rating is at around TB2, T2, depending upon the type of fan wall units. But the criteria or the parameters of AHU also comes into picture. So here you can see the temperatures are maintained with the help of the temperature sensor and the EC fan. Then you maintain the temperature between, this is at a 24 within, which is well within the bracket of the ASHRAE norms. So this is how the just a schematic diagram of the fan wall units. Again, very important is these are scalable at site, unlike a normal CCU, which is like 10 TR, that's it. Tomorrow you want a 20 TR, you will have to buy a new unit, but these are scalable as per the requirement at site or site needs. From there, now the next concept is, earlier we found in a server room, yeah, I'm having a server room, I want a cooling unit, I put a false floor. But the concept now with the fan wall unit, with the direct indirect expansion unit, we see the emerging trend of moving away from the false floor. So you eliminate supply grill, false floor, stand, all that in a large DC space, you save a huge cost. You save a huge cost on the capex, and then your overall capex also drops because of the fact we found the airflow being horizontal in a fan wall units. So this is a concept of where you eliminate or moving away from the false floor. To kind of summarize other type of cooling units which goes into the DC space, let's see a coolant as a air. Number one is the in-row. Apart from the traditional unit what we saw, we also see in-row units which are kept in-row along with the neighboring racks, and the coolant is air. We also find the rear door heat exchanger, which behaves as which has an heat exchanger on the backside of the rack, and the chilled water or DX is passed on to it. Rear door heat exchanger. Then you have the rack cooler, where the small unit 1 TR or 2 TR is placed within the unit down or side, and it cools each of the dedicated rack only. And then we have the wall mounted, which goes into the DX or connected to the chilled water. Again, a small server room application, but different types of cooling units, what we have seen in various applications of server room or data center. If you look at coolant as a liquid, I think today we are also hearing a lot of news on direct to chip and immersion cooling, where the chilled water is given directly to the chip, but of course you would also require a subsequent subsidiary cooling unit to cool the rack. Second concept is also where the servers are dipped in coolant, and with a single phase immersion, the coolant is taken back to the coolant pump, and with a help of a dry cooler or a heat exchanger, or even connected to the chilled water, the coolant is taken back to the server, which is dipped in a coolant. Or it can be a two-phase, where the server would hot air or the coolant would actually cool the server, and the hot liquid is then vaporized back to the liquid form. So this is a two concept what we find in the immersion. So kind of just giving you a overview of the coolant being liquid on in the server room. Then we also saw this news where Microsoft has literally dipped the server close to, I think, 400, 500 into water, because water liquid being the best coolant. So they have dipped. This is under observation, and I think hopefully it should not affect the marine life. But yeah, this is something which we see as an innovation, which actually motivates all of us to get kind of go to the next level. So as a conclusion, as I close, we took a pledge on sustainability, data center PUV, ASHRAE norms, cooling design parameter. We looked at different airflow methodology, free cooling. We looked at that. What goes into server room, criteria in a chiller for a DC space, hyperscale data center, what are the cooling, and the emerging trends along with the coolant as air and the liquid. So I'm sure, yes, the major objective is that we go green, and then we innovate, and then we have sustainability. All the data center should be designed with the right cooling units so that we go green. I quote and unquote here, with plenty of options to choose from both crack and the computer room air handling units. It's very crucial that you choose the right unit to meet your cooling demands, keeping in view of the parameters of best energy efficiency, sustainability with the right mix of both CapEx and OpEx savings. So with that note, I close the presentation. A big thanks to Ishre and all the members who are patiently listening to my presentation. I think round of applause for all of you, and I open this slot for the presentation. So for the question and answers session, Ashok.
Ashok bhai, Mr. Ashok. Thank you, Mr. Vasant. I think this was a very, very informative session, and I think we all deeply appreciate for the very wonderful presentation what you have given. I think it will make many person quite informative bring with their life and job as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you
Quite
very much.
flawless, I would say. Very, very flawless. And let me check if there are any questions in the chat box. One of the requests was there to share your presentation. I think people are in love with your presentation. So
Sure,
would you
sure.
like to share it with them?
Yeah, yeah, I think I'll share it to
Mr.
Ishre. And,
Ayush,
yeah, go ahead, sir.
a very fantastic thing. There is one Mr. Prahlad Mithu requested, what is negative temperature compensation at high altitude? Any suggestion on that part too?
Any negative what, sir?
Negative temperature compensation
Okay.
at high altitude. Any suggestion on that part? It is there
Yes,
on the chat box also. So you
okay,
can have a
okay,
look.
yeah. Okay, so I think very important. I think when I touched briefly on the free cooling, if you find that the temperature as you go, I think especially in the high altitude where you have the benefit of lower ambient, you can look at the free cooling option. I spoke on the free cooling where it's connected to a water circuit, and you can directly get the rather than having the outside ambient touching the data center space, you have the ambient touching the a condenser coil which circulates just water and ethylene glycol. Thereby, you only run the EC pump, which is consuming just 0.3. So your POVs can be very high, and your COPs can be down, and your COPs can be very high. So I think you get that advantage with such low ambient.
Fantastic, sir. Let me see. There has been a lot of appreciation, Mr. Sandeep, a very informative, nice. I think there's been continuously that.
Thank
All
you.
of that.
Thank
How
you.
has been how has been the acceptance of free cooling in India?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I can see that. Thanks, Chetan, sir, for asking that question. Yes, frankly, yeah, not much because we find free cooling much accepted outside India because of the fact you get in European markets, the ambience are pretty much low. But I think it's time that all of us change that concept because, yes, we don't get maximum, but at least 1 month, 2 months, still the units can run at free cooling. When I say free cooling, mixed mode between DX and the chilled water, the water circuit, you still get a benefit. So I think not much, but I think I'm sure all of us and all the ISHRE members with having sustainability and innovation, I am hopeful to see free cooling in the months to come. But yeah, this is a concept which is an emerging trend.
Thanks, Sandeep.
Okay. So there's one more question. One question is, in case of power failure, we can use DG sets. That means I feel he wants to ask, can we use DG sets?
Okay, I think this question is kind of open, but if you're referring to the cooling system, in fact, what happens in a larger kind of like data center, the crack units are also connected. It has an ATS switch, which is connected to the raw BESCOM power, also the UPS. So if you are specific for the cooling, it is not direct DG, but it is connected to the UPS. But the old DC space, yes, it is connected to the DG set very much.
Okay. Could you confirm the velocity of fan wall unit?
Yeah, again, it depends because, as I said, the fan walls are all customized as per the DC space. It's not as typical crack units where you have A, B, C, D model. It's all designed, but I think roughly 9 or 15 would be the velocity approximately. But again, depends upon the type of fan. All fan wall units are customized in terms of the site requirement, not like a traditional CC unit.
Great. A very old friend of mine has asked you a question, Mr. Mithun Naik. How much percentage PUE will be improved if there is any improvement in cooling energy by 15 to 20%?
Yes, very much. In fact, in terms of percentage, I think I had a slide which talked about 30% in a PUV. So that means if you drop from 30%, 25 or 20, there could be a improvement of close to 15 percentage, 10 to 15 percentage, doing a kind of a rough math on the PUV numbers.
Okay. So in most of the tender at high altitude, like 3,600 meter at temperature range minus 35 to minus 35 to plus 35. So I don't know, is that a question complete or not?
Okay, I think I kind of answered this question in the first question, but yeah, I think referring back to the same answer, I think if you have the benefit of the condensers have the facility to withstand minus temperature, as I talked about in the free cooling, where it is connected to a condenser where the direct outside air is not taken inside. So the condensers are actually designed, I think, minus close to 40, 45, so it can withstand that kind of temperature, and you get the benefit of running just the easy water pump.
Great, sir. What is the minimum height from indoor to outdoor crack DX unit? Can 100 meters both supply and return can be executed at site?
What is the minimum height? Height, okay, height meaning 100. Height meaning, okay, there are two things. One is the indoor to outdoor, if it is horizontally placed, 100 meters, 110, depending upon the OEM. Yes, very much. Supply and return can be executed very much. Again, there is a cap if it is vertical, if the indoor units are down, let's say at the first floor, and the outdoor is at, let's say, 30 meters maximum, 25 to 30 meters maximum. Yes, if it is above that, it's not recommended. Again, if the outdoor is below, let's say maximum -5, it can work. Anything above that, it's not technically recommended.
Great, sir. Air velocity more than 400 FPM in the cold aisle can create turbulence. Can you guide us on same?
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Vitum, for asking. I think yesterday we had a chat on this. Yes, there are few modifications which can be done with. I think few modifications can be done with the traditional system with the grill. Nowadays, the supply grill comes with a easy fan control, so that that will actually help in terms of monitoring and modulating the supply air and the velocity at the rack level. If you just keep a normal grill, it is going to affect. But if you have a variable speed and a controlled supply grill, that's going to also save.
There's just a general comment. Direct free cooling has got very good acceptance in India.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
presentation. Very detailed, good presentation. If I keep reading this, then I have to sit till the evening. So passing that, do you see liquid cooling in future is expected to cover the conventional cooling methodologies currently in practice?
Yeah, actually, yes. In fact, there are a couple of reports which claimed that the PUV is low. On the paper, or rather, it's saying it is good on the PUV, very low. It is claimed. But again, we have not used it unless it is tested and seen. That we cannot comment, because as of now, we don't find. I think very minimal. I think 1 or 2 installation is what I see in India. But I can't really comment. But what on the paper it claims, PUV is 1.0, which is actually an incredible number. We'll have to wait and see as the years go by. But as of now, we find major chunk in the CCU unit.
I think good amount of question, Sandeep, and I think they can also get back to us. We have our email IDs as program@ishabangalore.in. Anybody can reach us. Sandeep is our very regular and prompt member. He is a part of CWC, Co-op CWC, and a youth member as well as in program. So now I will leave on to Mr. Vinod Saladi, who is the program chair. And I think a wonderful participation. Mr. Vinod, you are there? Vinod bhai, Ashok bhai.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm there.
yeah. Vinod also is there. I'm also there. Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Over to you, people. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
I think there was a technical glitch where we could not hear you, so I just took it over.
No issues. We are very thankful for that.
Yeah.
We're very thankful for that. And thank you, Sandeep, for a wonderful presentation. I'm sure all our members have benefited from your presentation. The response has been wonderful, encouraging. And I'm sure you have noted the response of all the participants who were there on the webinar.
Yes.
and I'm very sure that we will reach out to you again in future in order to get more quality programs connected to your topic to our IBC members. Having said that, we thank all the members for having taken time out of their Saturday evening and having encouraged us by participation. This is incidentally the very first direct technical program for the society year 21-22. And we have planned more than one technical program per week during this year. And I'm sure it comes in various packages of webinars, technical talk, product presentations, half-a-day programs, and then we also have certain national programs, all of these coming for the benefit of our members. So we request your continued patronage to make the programs planned a big success. Having said that, thanks, Mr. Sandeep, for your time, and we look forward to meeting you again. And
Just to add on, Vinod bhai, just to
Yes.
add on, I think
Yes.
he put a lot of hard work to bring these so many slides and very beautifully presented. I think not just thank as soon as possible once we have physical meetings possible, face-to-face meeting possible. I think we should be in a position to bring Mr. Sandeep back.
Yes, surely.
Hello.
So yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So yeah,
Hello?
I can hear.
Okay, fine. Thanks for adding on, and I'm sure we will bring more and more quality programs to our members. Thanks once again to Mr. Sandeep and to all the participants for the evening. And definitely, I'm sure earlier our team has acknowledged the sponsors, and we'll continue to grow with the patronage of all the sponsors. Thank you so much for the evening.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the wonderful words. And I think I should really thank Ajay sir for the opportunity, Vinod sir, Ashok sir, and entire CWC member of a team of ISHRE. I think thanks, kudos for all of that. All the non-members, please do ping and do become an ISHRE member. With that note, thanks all the members for patiently listening and logging in. Wish you all a happy weekend and advance happy Ugadi, Vishu and Tamil New Year. So with that note, thanks and cheers. Let's meet on a physical presentation very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, wishes on Ugadi and Tamil New Year coming up next week to all the members, and a happy weekend right now.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
thanks, sir.
Yeah,
Bye.
we sign off now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.